So this presentation is going to look at the planning for the practical project. So let's have a look at what it's all about. Timings. The planning for each practical task must be completed at least 2 weeks before it starts on site. The planning must be done in a supervised environment, such as the college. Amount. The project can be split into a maximum of 4 smaller jobs, and each must have a plan. And finally, marking. We have to remember only one plan counts towards your end grade, but each must at least obtain a pass. So what forms do you need to use? Well, we'll go into each of these in more detail on the next slides, but let's have a look. We've got resource list, method statement and schedule of work, risk assessment, success criteria, dealing with problems, customer estimate, and communication methods and styles. So this is the method statement, and what we've got here on the right hand side is the Google form that we've developed to allow you to input what you need in the planning. So what is a method statement? Well, a method statement describes how to do a task safely and outlines the work processes to be completed. It must describe exactly how you are going to carry out the work, and it must also include how long it will take and what PPE you need. So let's look at a method statement for making a cup of tea. So first of all, fill the kettle with water, plug it in and turn it on, and that will take 30 seconds. Number 2, find a cup and a spoon. Add a tea bag to the cup, 30 seconds. When the kettle has boiled, add the water to the cup and leave it for 3 minutes. Finally, stage 4, remove the tea bag, add your milk and your sugar. So the total time to make the tea is 5 minutes, and that's our sequence of operations. So don't forget, we're looking at how you do it, what PPE you need, and how long it's going to take. And that's the method statement. Our next form that we need to fill in is a risk assessment. So we've got to look at, are there any dangers in carrying out the work? And the HSE defines a risk assessment as a careful examination of what in your work could cause harm to people, so that you can weigh up whether you've taken enough precautions or you should do more to prevent harm. If we've never done a risk assessment before, let's have a look at walking from the compound to where you're working on a major site. So the activity, that's walking from the site compound to the plot you're working on. We've got to look at the hazards. The hazard is being run over by plant and machinery. So then we've got to look at our existing controls. So what do we do to protect ourselves at the moment? We wear PPE, a high-vis vest. We walk down the pedestrian walkways, which separates us from the traffic. We should have speed limits on site and reversing alarms on things like forklifts and lorries. We've then got to look at the severity of the hazard. If you get run over by a forklift or a truck, likelihood is it's going to cause major injury or fatality. But with all the things we've put in place, the likelihood of that occurring is actually only 1 because it's quite remote. So our risk rating is the severity times the likelihood, which in this case is 3 times 1, which equals 3, which means it's a medium risk. So we've got lots of controls in place, but it's a medium risk. So let's put an action down that we need regular toolbox talks to remind workers of traffic danger. And then I think we've done our part. So a risk assessment looks at all the hazards that you've got on site. What are the existing controls? And do you need to put more in place to keep you safe? Our next form is a resource list. What are you going to need to complete the work? So you're going to use this form to list everything you will need for the project. Think about each tool and item of equipment you will use, and then use this to write down what PPE you will need to wear. Think about a disc cutter. You might need to wear goggles, gloves, ear defenders. And also, using a set of plans, a sketch, or maybe instructions from a client, you can then work out the exact amount of materials you need to order from the suppliers. So, in this example, let's have a look at making an opening for a wall. Tools: club hammer, bolster, plug-in chisel, level, tape measure, marker or spray paint. Equipment: you might need an SDS drill, a disc cutter, you'll need some acros and strong boys to support the opening, and you'll probably need a vacuum cleaner to clean up afterwards. PPE: gloves, hard hat, ear defenders, dust mask and goggles. And then materials wise, well, for this example I've said we need an RSJ, we need some pad stones, we'll need some slate for packing above the steel, definitely need some mortar and some plastic sheeting for dust control. So what you can do is you can work out the amount that you'll need and then put those on the sheet. Our next form is the customer estimate. So how much will the job cost? Using the form that we've got on the right hand side, we can show all the items and the cost of each item. We've also got to include our overheads and profit margins. So what do we mean by overheads? Well, these are all your hidden costs that support your business, such as insurance, van tax, maintenance, replacing tools as they break, and accountancy and admin fees. So we've actually included your overhead costs, and they're £6.25 per working hour. Your hourly rate is £25 per hour. We've also got to include our profit margin. So what is a profit margin? Well, this is the percentage on top of the basic cost that you'll give to the customer. It could be 5%, it could be 10%, in this case it's 25%. So for our example, the total cost of the job is £1,000. How do we work out our profit at 25%? So an easy method is just to use your calculator and do 1,000 times 1.25, and that equals £1,250. If it was 10% profit, you'd do 1,000 times 1.1. The next form we've got to use is the communication methods. So as they say, good communications ensures a solid foundation for projects. So who do you need to talk to and how? Well, communication on site is important for many reasons. It can make the job run more smoothly, it can keep everyone safe, and it creates a good working environment, somewhere we want to go to work. So in this form, you will list everybody that you need to communicate with, what information needs to be shared, and how you're going to do it. Identify all the people involved with the task. It might be the site agent, it might be other workers in your gang, it might be the customer, it might be the scaffolders and the carpenters. Who will be involved in the handover? So think about the trades that will come after the work is finished. Think about the plasterers, the plumbers and the electricians. What information will be needed in a handover? This could be health and safety documents. It could be the sets of plans if there's only one set for the job. It could be the specification. And it might be a special request by the client that they want a window move in or they want a double socket put in somewhere else. And then what is the best way to communicate this information? So think about things like electronic plans. You'd probably send them by email. Photos, you could send them by WhatsApp or text. And any problems with a job, you'd probably give someone a call, or you might talk to them personally. The next form we're looking at is success criteria. How will you know that you've done a good job? Success criteria are goals that you set yourself before starting the project that relate to the work that you'll be doing. So success can be measured in a range of ways, from completing a job on time to working safely and not getting injured. And these criteria will help you assess the project after it's finished and also be used in your evaluation and your professional discussion. Think about quality of finish. What tolerances do you want? Think about timely achievement. Do you want it to be completed early? Do you want it to be completed on time? Safety record. Are we making sure that no one gets hurt? And value for money. One of your success criteria might be that you don't have any wastage in your timber. Our next form is about dealing with problems and what happens if something goes wrong. So construction, it's very fast paced, there's lots of factors and many of them are outside of our control. Considering problems before they arise will give you a head start in making alternative arrangements. So in this sheet on the right hand side, you will think of anything that could affect the success of your project and ways to reduce the impact. As the saying goes, you fail to plan and you plan to fail. So here's a few examples. What happens if you have bad weather? What happens if the materials don't arrive on time? What happens if equipment has a breakdown? And what happens if you find an error in the plans or the specification? So think of everything that could go wrong in the project and then ways that you can limit the damage. You've done all that. Now what happens? We have to submit it for marking. So when you're happy with the information in the forms, they'll be sent to your assessor and they will check it and mark it. These will be then graded and returned a minimum of 1 week before the project starts. Now, if the plan doesn't achieve a pass, you won't need to resubmit the whole plan, just the part that's not up to standard. So it might mean that you need something else on the success criteria, but it means that you don't have to do a new risk assessment or method statement. Don't forget, only the plan for the largest job will count towards your overall grade, but each plan must pass the minimum standards. So let's have a look. We've got 12 marks available, which is 17% of your overall qualification for this part alone. So it's really important. And we grade each section as a 0 for fail, a 1 for a pass, and a 2 for exceeded. And you're allowed 12 hours to complete the maximum of 4 plans.